Welcome to Conversations with Melissa. RenaFi provides practical, research-based advice, courses, and peer support, focuses on the underlying drivers of our ADHD behavior. We provide a holistic program that serves to help you thrive with ADHD, not in spite of it. To follow us on YouTube, the YouTube RenaFi channel, and you can find some digests or clips from many of the conversations with Melissa. Okay, so here we are, conversation with Lisa Zaretsky. Dr. Zaretsky works with clients to expand their mindset, rewrite their stories, and transform their lives. Dr. Lisa Zaretsky is an experienced psychotherapist, hypnotherapist specializing in rapid transformational therapy, well-versed in ADHD, learning disabilities, PTSD, and trauma-informed intervention.
One of the things we were going to talk about today was perfectionism that you're unaware of, that's undiagnosed, that becomes a part of your life, and you're doing all of these things to compensate, and though you don't realize you're doing all these things to compensate, and you're not quite getting it right. You're not quite getting something right. You're not quite getting the communication right. You're not quite getting the transitions right. You're not quite getting the schoolwork right or the classroom. There's something you're not quite getting right. That, and then internally you start to feel like there's something wrong with you, but more so that you're afraid of being rejected, or you've gotten in trouble because you didn't quite get it right. And then you're overcompensating, but you don't know what you're overcompensating for. But in your mind keeps thinking, I'm not good enough, but I don't know why. And so this message keeps going on, and then you're put in the same situations and the same circumstances over and over again. You don't know what's wrong, but then you start to get like this pit in your stomach, or you start to feel like I got to get it right this time, but you don't know what you're getting right. And this pattern starts to happen over and over again. You're overcompensating because you're afraid you're going to get in trouble again, or it's not going to be right. But the bottom line is you've developed this belief that I'm not good enough, and you don't know why you're not good enough, but you've developed this belief that I'm not good enough. So you're always trying to be good enough by getting it perfect. And there is no perfect, but you're trying to compensate for something that you don't know what you're trying to compensate for. And that's what the neurodivergent community, but yet it could be in any community. And that's just one aspect of perfectionism, but it happens a lot with the neurodivergent community because of these issues. So it's very common. It's a high incidence in the neurodivergent community. At some point, if it hasn't caught up to you yet, chances are, I don't want to, be a Debbie Downer, but at some point, a house of cards can't exist without, the brick, the mortar, the glue, all of that. That's just, part of the package and the cards you were dealt. But it doesn't have to be exhausting, and it doesn't have to be a bad thing.
I do want to
Right.
step back just because I noticed when you were talking about the perfectionism and trying so hard to get it right, maybe to avoid criticism or punishment.
Or rejection or abandonment.
So much.
It goes very deep.
There's a lot of anxiety. So I just don't want to overlook that, because that's these internal feelings of they occupy brain space that we now can't use for other things.
Yeah, so I'll just quickly address that. So if you look at it in layers, so the presenting problem would be perfectionism, right? And then the symptoms or the triggers would be the anxiety. And then underneath that are the core beliefs. And the core beliefs typically are, I'm not good enough, it's not available to me, and I don't belong. And that's where the imposter syndrome starts to come in as well. I don't belong, because you have these core beliefs that have developed, and the thought patterns have continued to fuel these beliefs. And you're constantly, and you're trying to get it perfect, and you're juggling all these balls, and you don't quite feel like you belong, or how did I get this successful, or how am I here? And yet you did, because you had amazing talents that got you there, but you're still living with the parts that don't have intervention, or just got intervention, or require intervention when the next person doesn't need it. And that can fuel those beliefs. I'm not good enough. I don't belong. It's really not available to me. Like, what's going on here? How'd I get here? And then you start to think in lack, and then you perpetuate that. And then that can take you away from the successes that you have rather than focusing on, well, I have these amazing talents, I have these amazing strengths, and this is what snowballed, and this is what got me here. There are people who want to stay in these symptoms of the anxiety or the depression or sometimes we feel like a victim, like, why me? I have ADHD or I have dyslexia or I have that, and live in that lack, and they want to stay here. So there are those who want to stay in that place, of these symptoms and triggers, and there are those, there are coaches, there are therapists, there are whatever, that will stay there with them. But then you're not making movement. But if you go to okay, I have perfectionism, I realize that there's an issue here, I really want to address the big bang. Okay, the symptoms and the triggers and the habits can really help you identify what's fueling this issue. But then you really want to get underneath to what the thought patterns are and the belief systems are that are causing it. And when you do, and you treat those and you reframe them or transform them, the symptoms and the triggers start to dissipate. Your state starts to change, your attitude starts to change, your emotions start to change. And you and I talked about this the other day. There's this ping pong match that goes on within you. So you have these thoughts and you have belief systems, and the thought patterns create the beliefs and they loop. And then they fuel emotions and feelings, and they ping pong with each other and they stay in the match. So when you're having these perfectionistic thoughts and belief systems, I'm not good enough, I don't belong, it's not available to me, and then that leads to I'm unworthy, I'm unlovable, and they're very deep and they're unconscious. But the red flags are the imposter syndrome, the perfectionism, anxiety is a red flag, depression's a red flag, feeling in lack, living in loss, living in your mistakes. All of those are the red flags. And what you want to do in that ping pong match is interrupt the game. You want to literally interrupt the game, catch the ball, throw a new ball in with new thoughts and new beliefs that are life affirming, self affirming, focusing on your strengths and talents, because that whatever you roll up, whatever you put in a ball, that will snowball. So you want to throw in a new ball of focusing on your talents, your strengths, your potential, your opportunities, and put it there. And why you're here, looking at your achievements, that's data in itself, right? So look at the data of all the accomplishments and the achievements. And then you start that ball in the ping pong match. And then the thoughts and beliefs, that new thoughts and beliefs, that new ball that you put into the ping pong match start to fuel feelings of success, and start to feel feelings of feeling good and happy and fulfillment and purpose that can unfold each day as your state raises, and good attitude, and these feelings and the thoughts and the beliefs start a new ping pong game. And either you stay in this game or you choose to get out and back into the old game, because that's what's familiar. And there's an illusion that there's comfort in the familiar, even if it doesn't serve you, because it's harder to get into the flow of the new game. But once you get into the flow of the new game, that becomes your new familiar. And that's really where I suggest people go. And that's how you address perfectionism. It's just part of your package, and you can take that package and look at it as a gift, because it also comes with incredible strengths and incredible talents that the person next to you won't have.